Welcome to our training segment on how the Section 504 process works and the types of services available. This chart provides an overview of the process that should be used by both the parent and school in determining eligibility for Section 504 services. The first thing that is noticed by a parent or teacher are problems in school and/or home. As a parent, you can ask yourself the following types of questions. Do you spend an excessive amount of time helping your child with homework? Does your child continually come home with poor grades or progress reports? If so, the first step could be setting up a parent-teacher meeting to discuss interventions and to consider the option of a Section 504 evaluation. If necessary, a referral should be made to determine eligibility. Observation and evaluations should be done to determine if your child has a qualifying disability. A team meeting of concerned, involved individuals meet to determine eligibility and to proceed with determining accommodations and services. Accommodations should be individualized and will vary according to each individual student. As a parent, if you believe your child is in need of a Section 504 evaluation, the following tips will help you. Ask for your evaluation in writing and keep a copy of the request. This step will keep your request from slipping through the cracks. Explain your child's problems and why you think an evaluation is needed. You could add this information to your written request. Provide copies of homework samples, report cards, results from private evaluations, and data such as the time spent doing homework. This information will help explain why you believe your child needs a Section 504 evaluation. And lastly, be prepared to explain why you believe your child has a disability that substantially limits one or more major life activities under the law. The parents should be included in the Section 504 process whenever possible. Parent involvement is considered best practice under the law and is not a mandate as it is in special education laws. A referral for Section 504 accommodations can come from either the parent and/or school personnel. A review of the problems and previous remedies should be considered and reviewed. As a parent, ask what interventions have been tried. Was there consistency in using those interventions during the trial period? And where is the data? All current information and remedies should be summarized and considered by a team of qualified individuals. The committee who will study and analyze the evaluation information to determine if your child has a qualified disability is called the Section 504 team or committee. Best practice suggests the following team members should be present: the parents, the student if appropriate, the school level 504 coordinator, and every school and charter school is assigned a coordinator. The local educational agent, who is typically the principal or someone he assigns. A regular educator, and there can be more than one if necessary. The school psychologist or someone to interpret assessments. Others that could also be included are a school nurse, special educator, behavioral specialist, an occupational therapist, physical therapist, and speech and language pathologist. Section 504 requires school districts to individually evaluate a student before classifying the student as having a disability or providing the student with services. The evaluation process should prevent misclassification and children unnecessarily being labeled as having a disability. Having a disability or impairment in and of itself doesn't guarantee eligibility for a Section 504 plan. The impairment must substantially limit one or more major life activity in order to be considered a disability under Section 504. Parents should always receive notice explaining any evaluation and placement decisions made by the Section 504 team. Parents are also allowed under the law to review any of their child's educational records and appeal any decision. Written consent from the parent to conduct an initial evaluation is considered the recommended practice from the Office of Civil Rights. Parents also have the right to other legal remedies, such as filing a compliance complaint with the Federal Office of Civil Rights, if they feel it is warranted. Schools must provide parents with a written copy of their parent rights or procedural safeguards. If you have questions regarding your rights, contact the Utah Parent Center for further explanation. An appropriate evaluation must include the following safeguards. Valid evaluation materials must be used. Tests must accurately reflect the student's aptitude, achievement, or other factors. A valid evaluation must be appropriately administered by trained personnel. And the evaluation materials must come from a variety of sources. Using a score from a single test alone would be inappropriate. The following factors are considered by the Section 504 team as they determine eligibility and decide on appropriate accommodations to benefit the student in the school setting. Evaluation results. Section 504 eligibility. The student's disability. The student's unmet needs, services and/or accommodations based on eligibility, positive behavioral supports, a health care plan, possible options for services, least restrictive environment for services, and staff in service. Once your child is found eligible for Section 504 accommodations and services are being delivered, your child's accommodations and/or services must be reviewed periodically. Best practice would be at least annually. The review process allows the team to determine if the chosen accommodations have been successful or if changes are necessary. It's important as parents to ask questions and feel informed as your child goes through the eligibility process. It is always okay to ask what sources the school used in determining eligibility. It is always helpful to include your own pertinent records, such as homework samples, report cards, medical reports, etc. If your child is found ineligible, request written documentation and prior written notice. The Section 504 team must provide you in writing the reasons your child was found ineligible along with corresponding documentation. Parents have the right to appeal the decision. You may want to consider a Section 504 referral if you recognize any of the following signs. Suspension or expulsion is being considered for any student. A retention is being considered. A student shows a pattern of not benefiting from instruction. A student returns to school after a serious illness or injury. A student exhibits a chronic or reoccurring health condition. A student has a medically diagnosed disability. Best practice states A Section 504 plan should always be written. Because it is not a mandate in the law, I suggest parents request a copy of the Section 504 plan as a safeguard. Students on an individualized education plan through special education are automatically protected under Section 504, and in many cases, their accommodations are written as part of the IEP document. A student with a qualifying disability should be placed with his or her non-disabled peers to the maximum extent possible. This is typically done in the general education classroom with the use of supplementary aids and services. Once the accommodations have been determined, it is important that each teacher who works with the student know what the accommodations are so they can be implemented appropriately in the classroom. The school staff must provide the accommodations and services in the plan.